Thank you. Thank you. I think they've earned another quick round of applause for what they've been through. Now it doesn't stop from here. We get even better. I'm really delighted now to invite to the stage Mike Coyle, who is the president of manufacturing. So Mike Coyle is the president of Chevron's manufacturing organization, a position he has held since July 2016. Before coming into his role, Coyle was the vice president of manufacturing, and his responsibilities included overseeing the safe and reliable operations of Chevron's 4 niche refineries. He's also served as a vice president of Downstream strategy. And I think it was a culmination of these different factors, which is why we're really, really delighted to have Mike come speak to us today, because we're dealing with Downstream.
I actually have a brother-in-law who's an ex-Navy SEAL, and he doesn't talk about it much, so maybe I can share some of this with him. Hey, thanks everyone for being here and joining me today. It's great to be here in Houston, and I'll be spending more time here in Houston and in Texas, and I'll explain why very shortly. The timing of this conference and my attendance today is fortunate. Given Chevron's acquisition of the Pasadena refinery about 6 weeks ago, this is a very exciting time for Chevron's Downstream. And it's been more than 16 years since we've owned and operated a refinery in the great state of Texas. And we're very happy to be back. Yay. I'd like to take a minute and just introduce the general manager of Chevron's Pasadena refinery, Tim Sutherland. Tim, could you please stand up for the group? Tim brings almost 30 years of refining experience to Pasadena, and he's the only person in all of Chevron who has worked in all 5 of our owned and operated refineries. And I appreciate Tim taking the time out of his busy day to be here with us today. Thanks, Tim. I'll begin my remarks with a macro look at Chevron and then drill down, no pun intended, to our downstream business and specifically our refining sector. Chevron's the second largest integrated energy company headquartered in the United States, and we have business activities throughout the world. More than 48,000 diverse and highly skilled people work for Chevron around the globe. In the US, our upstream oil and gas production assets include positions in California, here in the Southwest, Gulf of Mexico, and Appalachia. Our growth prospects are anchored by leading positions in the Permian Basin shale assets and in the deepwater Gulf of Mexico. On the downstream side, we own and operate 5 refineries in the US. Those facilities are located in El Segundo and Richmond. Both of them are in California. Salt Lake City, Utah, Pascagoula, Mississippi, and our newest addition, Pasadena, as I just mentioned, which is just down the road from here. We have interests in 3 joint ventures located in Singapore, South Korea, and in Thailand. All told, our refining capability or capacity is almost 2 million barrels per day. The way Chevron thinks about our business, we think about it in value chains, from crude to customer. We have 3 integrated fuel value chains. The US West Coast, where we are the #1 retailer of gasoline. The US Gulf Coast, and this region also includes Central America, where we market our Texaco brand. And third, in Asia, where we market under the Caltex brand. We also have 3 petrochemical value chains located in the US Gulf Coast, the Middle East, and again, South Korea. I'll talk about the US Gulf Coast in a minute. And Chevron is the only integrated energy company with wholly owned lubricants, base oils, and additives businesses. We have a 50-50 joint venture with Phillips 66, and that's Chevron Phillips Chemical Company, or CP Chem. And it's one of the world's top producers of olefin and polyolefins, and is a leading supplier of aromatics, alpha olefins, styrenics, and specialty chemicals and polyethylene piping. CP Chem is headquartered here in Texas in the Woodlands and employs about 5,000 people globally. operates in 13 states and in 6 countries, and it has assets totaling about $14 billion. I've been on the CP Chem Board of Directors for 3 years now, and I can tell you this nearly 2-decade-long partnership complements Chevron's refinery positions as well as our upstream assets. Petrochemicals are an important area of growth for Chevron's value chain as an integrated oil company. And globally, the petchem sector continues to grow, and it continues to grow to meet the growing demand of the world. The Gulf Coast figures prominently in CP Chem's current portfolio and future growth opportunities. The company recently invested $6.8 billion in U.S. Gulf Coast projects, including the Old Ocean polyethylene units that started up towards the end of 2017, and the Cedar Bayou ethylene cracker that started up last year. Here's a picture of the Cedar Bayou ethylene cracker. And another U.S. Gulf Coast project is currently under evaluation. The Gulf Coast is a very attractive region for petchem growth, with plentiful feedstock availability from shale gas deposits, robust pipeline and storage facilities, extensive rail infrastructure, access to coastal ports, and an industry-friendly environment. We're particularly optimistic about growth opportunities here in North America, given global demand drivers, the U.S. Gulf Coast infrastructure, and development of shale resources. Now, with the addition of the Pasadena refinery to our portfolio, it is clear that Chevron continues to be focused on our downstream value chains. Here's a picture of the Pasadena refinery. So why Pasadena? Well, there's 3 main reasons. The refinery enables us to process more domestic light crude. The facility primarily ran Eagle Ford crude, and we believe there's an optimization opportunity to run Permian extra light crude. We're currently evaluating this alternative. Pasadena will be closely tied to our 350,000 barrel a day refinery in Pascagoula, Mississippi, through the exchange of intermediate products and also with respect to turnaround coordination. The result of this integration of these facilities is a Gulf Coast refining capacity of more than 45,000 barrels per day. And we'll be even better positioned to supply a portion of our retail market to Texas and Louisiana with Chevron-produced product. Simply put, that's how Pasadena will benefit Chevron. Now, what does Chevron bring to the table? Well, quite a bit. We've been running refineries since the turn of the 20th century. We're a leader in net cash margin and utilization, according to recent and many Solomon study results. But we recognize the energy industry is evolving, and we have to embrace change in order to succeed. Chevron's refining business, or manufacturing as I call it, we call it internally, has been on a journey over the past several years. With regards to personal and process safety performance, we continue to tackle challenges head-on with initiatives ranging from streamlined, user-friendly procedures and checklists to much more comprehensive asset integrity programs. One of the areas that I'm particularly proud of is the progress towards becoming a learning organization. We're embracing the principles of human performance, which encourages thinking about and improving how people, work systems, culture, equipment, and processes all interact. It involves an organizational shift in the way we think about safety as not being the absence of incidents, but rather ensuring the presence of safeguards that prevent incidents. Fundamentally, human performance recognizes that mistakes happen. Humans make mistakes. We all make them. At times, even error traps are designed into a system or become inherent to a process due to drift over time. And as humans, we don't always see these error traps before an incident occurs. And how we react as an organization and as leaders to mistakes is extremely important if we want to engage the organization to continuously improve. We've stood up learning teams throughout Chevron, with the manufacturing organization taking the leading the way. The intent of a learning team is to understand and learn to improve our collective operational knowledge. I especially like that learning teams can be used both when things go well and when things go bad. And they also can be applied to not only safety, but business processes and reliability processes. The key factor to learning teams is to get the right people involved, people who know the work and perform the work. And I'm going to give you an example of a recent successful learning team outcome. Last year at our Richmond, California refinery, a large recycle compressor in one of our hydroprocessing units shut down. And the operators were trying to start plant back up. And they tried to start the seal oil pump, but the discharge valve was left closed. And therefore we couldn't restart the compressor. And as a result, there was some heavy flaring. And in the state of California, that gets lots and lots of attention. It wasn't the first time this had happened. It had occurred before, and we modified procedures, we adjusted them over the years to prevent this from happening again. But it happened again. So this is where we applied a learning team to this situation to address it. And when you get the right people involved, as I said, they really know what the right answer is. So what the team discovered is that an error trap existed. The outside operator was needed to be in several different locations in a very short period of time to properly open all the valves in the right sequence. So their action item that came out of that, which we've implemented, was to automate that procedure. So now they just touch a button and all the valves go where they need to. We don't have to have an operator running around trying to get everything done in exactly the right time sequence. So we've now eliminated that error trap. Learning teams are changing the culture, not just by not just looking to assign blame, but looking for a way to make it easier to do the right thing and harder to make a mistake. I'm really proud of our people, particularly the frontline workers, who have embraced learning teams and the principles of human performance. Another area where I've seen lots of recent change in manufacturing is our accelerated implementation of technology. And we just heard a little bit about that at the end of the last talk. It used to be that a process improvement idea we'd put together a cross-section of subject matter experts and develop a plan, and from there, the wheels of progress would oftentimes turn at a glacial pace, and sometimes would halt depending upon different reasons. Well, we know that can't happen nowadays. We need to be more agile and nimble. And let's face it, our industry hasn't historically been associated with being agile and nimble, but things are changing. At Chevron, employees submit ideas about digital improvements like new apps and the like, and then present those ideas to a panel of judges, similar to Shark Tank, the reality show. The submittals are voted on, and the top vote getters are funded immediately. And this all takes place in a matter of days or weeks. In manufacturing, we're using mobile technology more and more in all aspects of our business, from operations to maintenance to technical. Another important factor is the adaptability of the workforce. As we move toward increased digitalization of our facilities and work processes, we need to have the organizational capability to adopt new technologies quickly and more efficiently than ever. This includes training of our future workforce. Chevron partners with community colleges near a few of our facilities to offer courses in refining operations and maintenance. We work closely with those institutions to ensure the curriculums are up to date and relevant to prepare operators and maintenance personnel for working in today's smarter refineries. I want to touch on something many of our organizations are facing: the generational shift change As more baby boomers, like me, cycle out of the workforce, organizations need to adjust the way they lead, communicate with, and engage younger employees, or the millennials, as we've heard so much about in the media these days. Those of us who are more seasoned in our careers are accustomed to top-down, one-way approach when it comes to communication. I remember the old days when paper memos were posted on bulletin boards as the primary source of company news. Then we moved to email, and we all thought that was pretty slick. But the millennials are inclined to be engaged if communications are more fluid, interactive, and we see that in the social media channels today. Chevron is among the first energy companies to implement Workplace. That's the business version of Facebook. It's an informal, intuitive platform for recognition and informal sharing. Take a look at this short Workplace post that shows the unveiling of the Chevron sign at the Pasadena refinery on May 1st. Can you roll the video? So that got posted on Workplace as virtually was happening. We've got, we do have Workplace Live, just like Facebook Live, so things can happen in real time. I've also come up with my own Throwback Thursday series, believe it or not, and I've been doing that since actually last November, every week. I post historic photos of our refineries, and I mix in some personal stories too. People really get a kick out of my hairstyles back in the 70s and 80s. And I think it's a way to engage the workforce at all levels, and it's been a popular series, even giving those who prefer not to be on the computer a reason to check in. Here are a couple of recent examples of posts that I've put out on my Throwback Thursdays. The post on the left is a picture of my grandmother, myself, and my 4 siblings from back in 1987. And I try to tie each one of these posts to something that's going on in the world or in our business within Chevron. And I tied this Throwback Thursday photo with the recognition of International Women's Day. And if you read the post, I go on to explain how my grandmother was a strong force in our family and how she influenced my life. The post on the right is a 1925 photo of the Crown Pasadena refinery. And I tied that to the humble beginning of Pasadena and the closing of the recent purchase and the new hallmark at the refinery, the Chevron hallmark. In the case of our operations and maintenance personnel, we face some workplace access challenges compared to the office-based personnel. That is, many of them don't have access to company mobile devices yet, and they typically don't spend much time on the computer. But I view Workplace as another tool in the toolbox, another opportunity to engage with more of the workforce in a platform that many of our employees are comfortable with already today. We still use email, we still hold tailgate meetings, we still conduct town halls and small group discussions. All of these complement and reinforce each other. Before I wrap up, I'd like to just talk about what makes me most proud to be part of Chevron, and that's our culture. We have a set of guiding principles known as the Chevron Way. It describes who we are and what we believe. It's a common understanding for all our employees and all who interact with us. The vision articulated in the Chevron Way is to be the global energy most admired for its people, partnership, and performance. And we really take that to heart. Our Chevron Way values are high performance, protecting people and the environment, partnership, integrity and trust, and diversity and inclusion. Promoting a culture that celebrates diversity and inclusion enables us to learn from and respect each other. We value uniqueness and diversity of individual talents and work experiences. I am a proud member of MARC, or Men Advocating for Real Change. And that's an initiative and MARC was developed by an organization, non-project group called Catalyst. and it encourages men to be more active and visible champions for gender inclusion. Mark is committed, as I am, to achieving workplace gender equality by improving opportunities for women to compete for roles at all levels. Research shown by Catalyst shows that when men are actively involved in gender diversity, 96% of companies report progress. When they're not, only 30% show progress. Mark programming helps both men and women break down unconscious biases and other barriers to inclusion. In its third year, Mark exceeds over 3,100 participants, 60% of which are men, and that's in 19 locations around the world. Chevron's chairman, Mike Wirth, has said, diversity is about the mix, inclusion is about making the mix work. An inclusive environment that celebrates differences, backgrounds, education, life experiences, and all the things that make us unique will ultimately result in a more engaged workforce, an innovative culture, and a stronger business performance. In closing, I want to say again how happy we are to have the Pasadena refinery in our refining network. It's not like we have been away entirely, though. Chevron has maintained a strong presence in this state for many years, with more than 8,000 current employees, and there's about 40 Chevron employees at the conference here these couple of days. And we have 11,000 retirees in the area, and more than 1,400 Chevron and Texaco branded service stations, and over 2 million surface acres in holdings in the Permian Basin. But I admit, being a refining guy through and through, it's very exciting to be back refining here in Texas. We're looking forward to a bright future here and bright future with the Pasadena refinery. Isn't that right, Tim? Better be. Well, I'll just say I'll close and say thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and I'll stay here. I think we've got some time for a question or two. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Obviously, just to remember that you can send in your questions using the Slido tool. Just open up Slido on your browser, enter Downstream 2019. You can send in some questions there as well. So, Mike, just a quick one from me to begin with. I mean, obviously, conferences are supposed to be a hub of best practices and learnings and networking. Would you have any advice for our attendees on the best way to approach kind of the second day of an event? You know, what should they be looking to get out of the event?
Well, yeah, I'd say don't be shy. I suppose most people in the group are not shy. But I was truly impressed I wasn't here yesterday. I was actually in New Orleans at a site visit. But as I came in the conference center today, I was truly amazed at the size of this place, the number of booths, and so I would just say, try and make yourself available as much as you can. I see there's places where people can go network and spend some time. So if you got a business problem, I'd say, try and search out for somebody that you can connect with and see what you can learn from them.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mike. So I guess to kind of kick us off a little bit, I mean, could you tell us a little bit more about how Pasadena will fit into the overall company at Chevron?
Yeah, I touched on 3 points, and those are the main things. So we've been looking for quite a while. In fact, Chevron always is looking for how can we improve our business overall, not just the downstream, but the overall corporation. And so our strategy organization, which Kara mentioned, I was VP of Downstream Strategy several years ago. I know we're always looking for opportunities. How can we improve the performance of our business, and how can we get more efficient? So, Pasadena, there'll really be 3 ways that it's going to help us improve. One, it's a second refinery in the Gulf Coast. So teaming that up with the Pascagoula refinery brings a lot of opportunity to share resources, people, best practices, and then, as I mentioned in the talk here, just the coordination around turnarounds. And that is, again, also people and equipment, and it's also, product intermediates and being able to level that out during the turnarounds. And then, it's an opportunity for us to capture more of the value for our own produced crude oil from the Permian. And today, the refinery runs mostly Eagle Ford crude, and there's opportunity to enhance and enhance the refinery to be able to process more of the even lighter Permian crude that we're producing each and every day. So that's how, that's primarily how it will fit in. There's also opportunity for us to provide more of our own produced product into the states of Texas and Louisiana compared to what we do today.
Perfect, thank you. This question is going to come in a couple of parts. So I guess kind of really briefly, could you kind of give us a bit of an idea of how digital technology has changed in Chevron during your career and how you've necessarily had to adapt to the development of that technology? Well,
I'm kind of known as a bit of a technical geek anyway, so to me it's been kind of an interesting transformation. But back in the day when I started, and I can see a lot of gray hair in the room too. There were no computers on people's desks. Maybe we had mainframes and even in the early days we had cards. We had to do if you're doing a refinery optimization model, you did it with these little cards. You put in a card reader and wait 30 minutes for an output. But so over the years, clearly, I can't imagine anybody in the room hasn't seen all that change that's happened. So you have to stay on top of it. You have to be able to. You can't shy away from that because the folks who are going to run and be the leaders of the future, that's their expectation. And I can't even imagine what it's going to be like 40 years from now when some of the young folks coming into the business are going to be sort of my age and going to retire. It'll be really different. So I think in order to be competitive, you have to stay on top of the technologies. And we're trying all different types of things. We're using drones. We're using as I mentioned here too, digital technologies, trying to become more efficient in the field, giving our folks in the front line the tools they need to do their jobs and do their jobs better than they can do them today. We've got engineers that are, out in the field taking photos, iPads. They've streamlined work order processes down very, very easily. Maintenance organizations are using them as well to capture information so that history is there all the time. We're testing HoloLens and virtual reality, augmented reality, and as the previous speakers talked about, machine learning and artificial intelligence. We need all those things in order to compete, actually, because everybody else is doing this as well. Yeah.
Perfect. You answered the second part of that without me even asking the question. So that's great. Well done. I guess just to kind of finish us off a little bit, what tactics, I guess, do you use as a company to encourage participation? Oh, wait, the question's moved. What tactics do you as a company use to encourage participation in D&I initiatives among male colleagues and team members at Chevron? And then I guess the second part of that is, what is your personal role as one of the leaders at the company in order to really facilitate and push that?
Well, we try to encourage everybody to understand what diversity and inclusion. And let me just say those two words, it's three words that are really, really important. And I actually heard one of the Microsoft leaders talk about this, but as I said in the speech, diversity is the mix and inclusion is making that mix work. But that word in between "and" is as important as the two other words. You can't just have diversity, and and you can't just have inclusion if you don't have you have to have all those three things together. So what I do, certainly with my own direct reports and in the meetings that I have, we have safety moments in the beginning, and we'll also have your diversity and inclusion moments. We actually have a part of our business plan. We have a 3-year shaping plan of how we're going to kind of engage the workforce in this. We have we hire different consultants to help us kind of put together some programs that will help filter that down to the organization. But I think the most important thing we need to do is talk about it and be direct and not shy away from the issue. And when you first start talking about it, can be a little awkward because we all have these unconscious biases. Sometimes we don't even know, obviously unconscious biases, you don't know you have them. You have these blind spots. When you start talking about it, and then people will open up, and you start building that trust, and which I talked about, one of the core values for Chevron. So those are the tactics I use. I try and be direct and straight up about it, and just talk to people. And the other thing you have to do, Kara, is you have to listen. You have to give people the opportunity to share what they're thinking, what they're feeling, And you have to be observant to what's going on, whether it's in the room or a group session or so forth.
It's perfect.
Thanks.
I think that just about wraps us up. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you.
So I know all of you are just itching to go grab a coffee, but just a couple of things to announce. Obviously, we are going to be breaking apart this room again like we did yesterday. So please do make sure you take all of your belongings with you as you leave the room. The Engineering Construction Theatre will be on this side. The Reliability, Maintenance, Shutdowns and Turnarounds will be on this side. Both of these two start again at 11:15 sharp. The Supply Chain and Logistics kicks off again at 11 o'clock in the room over there. And just starting right now is a free-to-attend AWP for contractors training by Bentley Systems in the Engineering Construction Theatre in the exhibition hall. So go enjoy. Thank you.